We're live. Oh my goodness! Sorry, I'm finishing my coffee. Good morning, Steve. How you doing?
Good morning, David. Good to see you.
So, what are we doing today? Oh, it's Chat. It's Monday. Let's roll.
It's Monday. I thought you'd be used to this by now. I think we've done 80-something episodes here. So anyway, my name is Steve Roderick, and I'm with JGS Insurance. David and I spend most of our days and evenings working with boards and management of community associations, and we also stay very, very close to the vendors and the service providers. Today, we have a special guest. Her name is Dana Warmer, and she is the vice president and one of the 3 partners over at Allied Elevator. Thanks for joining us, Dana.
Hey, good morning, guys. Great to be with you. It's a gorgeous morning and really nice to see both of you.
Well, Dana, why don't you tell us a little bit about Allied Elevator, where you guys are based out of, and what you guys do with community associations?
Okay. Well, we are based in Pennsauken, New Jersey, and we work in the greater Philadelphia area, serving clients from up southern New Jersey, from Trenton and Princeton to Cape May. All of Delaware.
All right.
And we have a lot of community associations that are part of our portfolio. In fact, that's actually how we started. My 2 partners that founded the company, Justin Gill and Doug Reese, they had formed some great partnerships with condo managers, community managers, and that's some of our early clients were with the communities.
All right, fabulous. Well, thank you for sharing. Now, David has written a horrible joke for this next question, but I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through with it anyway, but just bear with me because it's awfully corny. But I know your industry goes up and down all the time, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, seriously, with the pandemic, how were you guys affected by that?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, you're pushing my buttons. Sorry, bad joke.
So actually, come on, Dana. This is elevator music to my ears.
So during the pandemic, actually, fortunately for our business, we were considered essential. So we actually never stopped working. But there were changes because our clients had to adapt. So for instance, condos and apartments had people who were in their building, so their elevators were being used far more often throughout the day. And so that created challenges for them. Other segments like hospitals that might have had, outpatient surgery or elective surgery options, they had to suspend those services. So they took advantage of that time to have actually work done. So it kind of varied. The commercial sector really suffered in the city, obviously with people working from home, but we never stopped working. We just had to adapt to support our clients however they needed to.
Yeah, that's interesting because as you mentioned in your comments, elevators now are not just a luxury, they're really part of modern life, whether you go to commercial building, but in a high-rise community, it's absolutely a necessity. So how much maintenance do this piece of equipment require?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question because I believe that there may be a misperception that I need maintenance every month or I don't need maintenance very often. The way we approach it is we look at the building. We look at the building's use. An apartment, a condo, different than an industrial facility or a storage facility or a medical office building, a commercial high-rise. So we look at the building, we look at the population, we look at the number of elevators. Is it a building that doesn't have enough elevators? And then we also look at what type of elevator do you have? How well has it been maintained? And then we tailor the prescription for preventive maintenance service based on all of those factors.
Wow.
But with, often with apartments and condos, again, it kind of depends. Some condos have several buildings and each building only has one elevator, but the population is 55 plus and it's usually plus. So really, we factor in all those things. And so situations like that, we might be in there every month because we just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Now, our interest is
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say our interest is in not only staying ahead of potential issues, but also preserving the integrity of the equipment so it lasts as long as possible.
That's good.
Wow.
That makes you feel good, Steve?
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely.
He lives in a 55 plus community, so he's just worried about his
He's not the plus though.
almost. He
Oh.
aged very gracefully.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so I have a quick question, technical question for you. Now, and of course, I've ridden in elevators before, as we all have, and I noticed that there's different brands of elevators. So, do you have to employ different technicians for each brand? Like, I don't want an Audi mechanic working on my Ford, or I don't want a Volkswagen mechanic working on my Mazda. So, do you have to employ different technicians for all the different brands, or is the education pretty general?
That's an excellent question, and there's a kind of a two-part answer. Well, what I will say is that the guys that we recruit to come work for us, they might have specific expertise in a particular brand like a Schindler elevator or an Otis elevator. Many of our mechanics have worked on all of the major manufacturer brands. There are some brands that are no longer being manufactured or supported, and so the mechanics that were trained to work on those are also leaving the business. They're retiring. So it kind of depends on the viability of the brand. Is it still being manufactured and supported? Is still a living, breathing brand? And then also, as new models come out on the market, sometimes some of the big OEMs are fielding highly proprietary equipment. So our guys, our approach is if there is a unit, a series of elevators that are highly proprietary, and we don't have a deep enough bench of guys who can work on it, or if we don't have the proper diagnostics tools, we will not take that on. However, we actually can work on just about anything.
Okay.
There are just very few exceptions, and where we go to source parts is the same place that all the original equipment manufacturers go to get their parts.
Understood. Thank you. Great.
Now, you mentioned not all the elevators are going to be used the same amount with the same fatigue or anything. I get that, but what's the typical life expectancy of one of those equipment pieces?
Yeah, that's also a really good question because that's been changing. So in the old days, you might get an elevator that could last 40 years. It was well made, well engineered, well designed. Today, just like modern appliances, a lot of the mainstream OEMs are really building things to last 12 to 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So, but I would say a good rule of thumb right now is for what's out there around 25 years. And what you're going to start seeing first is maybe a lot of issues with doors, because doors get a lot of activity every day. But like anything, it's sort I was going to say, like anything, how well something lasts is also, again, back to how well it was designed, engineered, and supported. So there are some good models from the 80s and some not so good models from the 80s.
Yeah, and you did kind of mention, like, I think the next question I had in mind was what's most likely to malfunction, which you say is the door. But what is typically causing the malfunction?
Sometimes it's the maintenance where the opening and closing pieces, maybe they're wearing down, maybe they haven't been maintained well, maybe there's dirt getting in there, maybe they're not being oiled. But just because for every open, there's a close. So, and then often people put their arm in front of it, put their umbrella in front of it, bang a cart into it. So there's also a little bit of a, roller derby action going on there with doors sometimes, and they just get damaged.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they get beat up a lot, and they're expensive pieces of equipment. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what is replacing an elevator like. Typically, I'm just as general as you can. What's that type of? What was it cost? Like, how long does it take to replace an elevator?
And again, it varies. I guess there's two macro ways to think about. There's hydraulic systems that are usually 2 to 5 floors. Okay. And then there are the traction geared systems that are in your high rise and some other systems. Okay. But those are kind of generally the two big buckets. And so a hydraulic takes far less time to replace and is less money. So a hydraulic might be anywhere from $125 to $175,000, and it really, the range though, are you replacing the cab? Are there, when you modernize an elevator, you would then have to bring the building and other systems up to code. So you have other ancillary costs that are associated with it. We call that a turnkey project. So, but again, and some people, because of the cost, want to phase things in, and we always try to advise them to make good investments that are forward compatible and work with them to develop that modernization plan if they can't do it all at once. Attraction could be anywhere from 250 up.
Yeah, and I think like the height of the building determines the limit of the price. So have you actually
and what do you do? It's how much is involved. Are there certain aspects that can be retained? So it's like how much does it cost to build a house? How much land?
Right.
How many rooms? How many floors?
Yep.
Now, have you been on the Liberty Tower, the new World Trade Center building? They have this fantastic elevator. You go like 104 floors in like 30 seconds. Have you been in there or no?
Yeah. Well, I think the one that gets close to that is the Comcast Tower. Comcast 2.
So it's funny. Steve hates that elevator.
Oh,
is that the one that goes to the Four Seasons in Philadelphia?
Yes.
Yeah, no.
It's fantastic.
No,
yeah, he faces the door every time. He closes his eyes, faces the door.
So I don't like it.
Yeah.
So
it is.
For our viewers,
it is amazing.
If you don't know about it, you come to Philly's. There's a great bar called JG Sky High. It's on top of the Comcast building in the Four Seasons in Philadelphia. It's great place to go, and the elevator ride is fantastic. Best view in the city.
And the views of the city are just unmatched. It's just amazing. Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next question. Go ahead, Steve.
Next question is you.
Next question is me. So why do you like this industry? You did mention earlier you like going into different buildings, but what really makes you like your profession as a service provider?
I couldn't hear that. Could you say that again?
I was saying, what makes you like your industry? What makes you like your job?
Yeah. Well, so when I first started, I really didn't know anything about elevators, and probably like a lot of people, I took them for granted. They go up, they go down. I'd never been traumatized. But once I really started digging into it, I was really fascinated, just because I guess I just love to understand how things work. And I've worked around the industry in architecture and engineering and construction for years through family and previous work. So I've kind of always been around buildings and architecture. And what I was fascinated was this actually is very bricks and mortar. In order to take elevators under maintenance, you got to go out and you take a look at them. You get to see some of the most amazing buildings in our region. Often you're climbing up on rooftops. So if you've got a fear of heights, it's a great way to deal with that, confront that. And right now, some of the fun things. The other day I was on top of the Schuylkill Yards building, doing a walkthrough over there, and they've got they're harvesting honey. There's a lot of activity going on rooftops to protect bees. So there's just some fantastic views, fantastic buildings, and really being able to see the lifeblood of how people live and work in architecture that's really enabled by elevators. You couldn't have the architecture that we have without some type of vertical transportation to support it.
No kidding.
Very true. All right, we appreciate your passion for it. Steve, do you have any? Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I like that vertical transportation. That's a cool little term. I like that.
Yeah, and that's broadly, I guess that's how people in the industry talk about it. I know it's not the layman's term, but if you think about it, I like to say to people, if you were flying an airplane to work every day, how would you choose your service provider? Because vertical elevators are really in a different category. It's not the same thing as your HVAC system.
Right.
You know, there's an aspect of real life safety
Sure.
that goes into it, and risk management. So it's something it's in its own category.
Well, I will definitely think about it next time I hop onto the vertical.
Next time you push somebody's buttons.
All right, Steve, do you have any fun question for our guest today?
I might just have some elevator type questions for our guest today. Dana, are you ready to play along with us?
Sure.
All right, so there's a mix of some trivia and some personal questions. So
Okay.
we'll jump right into it. So do you know who invented the elevator, the modern day elevator, not the Archimedes one?
I guess I'm going to give Otis.
I think you're right. All right. Personally, have you ever been stuck in an elevator?
Yes, but I only because I didn't know it was card reader operated, so I had to call someone.
And the door wouldn't open? Oh my goodness!
Yeah, and I didn't know how. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, which one currently? What's the fastest elevator in the world?
Oh my gosh, I'm stumped. You're gonna have to tell me.
And I pulled this one off Google. It's in the Shanghai Tower, and it goes,
I believe it,
67 feet per second, or about 46 miles an hour.
That's crazy.
That's about twice. I understand it's about twice as fast as the fastest one in the U.S., I believe. This is just from my little cursory Google searches. Really.
Yeah, I was going to say it either would be Beijing or Shanghai or in the
Dubai,
United Arab Emirates.
Yep. Which is safer, an elevator or an escalator?
I'm going to say an elevator. Escalators are, they look simple, but they're just challenging pieces of equipment.
It looks like a giant meat grinder.
There's more moving parts to it, for sure.
There's a lot of moving parts to it, and people don't really know. For instance, you're really not supposed to put luggage on them.
True.
You know, and so there's things that people take for granted because they don't know. That can cause issues with the escalator. And, you know, if they're near the edge, if they're not paying attention, it's really, it's not to be taken lightly when you ride an escalator.
Sure.
It's not a ride.
Now you're really pushing her buttons.
Oh boy, here we go. All right. We mentioned this earlier. When about approximately was elevator music introduced?
Oh my gosh.
That's in 1952.
Oh, it was before that.
Oh, wow.
It was sometime
I was going to say in the 40s.
It was, according to this, it was sometime in the 20s. And it was actually, they introduced it to help alleviate the fear of elevators. But I don't know what the fear is called. Do you know what the fear is called, the fear of elevators?
No, I probably should know that too. Oh,
that one I couldn't find what it was called. I could not, definitely
it's something. It's something phobia.
Yeah, I'm not.
Elephobia.
Yeah, liftophobia.
Right.
I don't know.
Last question. Thank you for playing along. The last question, and this is on everybody's mind out there, I'm sure. When you push the close the door button, does it actually do anything, or is that a placebo?
It's supposed to close the door. It might hesitate for a moment, but it's supposed to close the door.
Really? No kid. I always thought it was just a placebo, like, just give somebody something to push.
Yeah.
Hold on. I have it. I found it. The fear of elevator is called elevatophobia.
Elevantophobia?
Yep.
I think you just made that up.
Okay.
No.
Sounds good. I'm going with it.
It's on phobia.com.
It sounds so much better. It sounds so much better when you say it with a French accent, though.
Of course, there is a phobia.com.
Elevantophobia.
Yeah, it sounds serious.
Elevantophobia?
I suffer from severe elevatophobia.
Yeah.
What is that?
I need to catch up on my trivia.
That sounds like a fear of elephants.
Well, next time we go into the elevator in Philly, I'll make sure I use the word.
All right. Well, thanks for playing along, Dana. Now's the time of the show we like to give our guests the microphone, and they can plug whatever it might be. It might be your business. It could be your favorite charity. Anything that you want to plug on our show, give it a shot.
Wow. Okay. Well, certainly I would say For Allied Elevator, there's a lot of changes that are going on in the industry. But the thing to consider when you're looking for an elevator service company is personal service and consistency in their staff, and what do they really have to support you in the way of technical expertise, but people in the back office. I think that's really important. And check reputations for integrity and contract compliance. That's just sort of word to the wise. We are, as far as charity goes, I'm glad you mentioned that. We are very, very supportive of a local charity that's, I think, doing great work for a lot of property managers, community managers, and it's Helen's Angels. And it's founded by Missy Quinn, Rich McClure, Don Haas, and Gloria Marquardt Owens, all property managers in the commercial space. And all the money that is raised is going to benefit local women and their families, providing some financial relief, women and their families who are struggling with breast cancer. So that's Helen's Angels, helensangels.org. And they have a really fun event coming up in October, all fundraiser, Teenies for Tatas. So check out helensangels.org.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We hope you all enjoyed this latest episode of Community Association Car Chat. Dana, we enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, spend some time with you this morning. And in the meantime, unless you have anything to add, Steve, we will see you next week on the next episode of Car Chat.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.